Welcome to Perspectives from WFSU Public Media. I'm Tom Flanagan. This program using the Zoom platform for probably just a few more weeks, pre-recorded on Tuesday, June 29th for playback on the first day of July, which is Thursday, of course. The show being aired on WFSU FM, also archived on WFSU.org. Well, several years ago, the Tallahassee and Big Bend area initiated an annual full court press, I guess we could call it, to provide the area's homeless and at-risk veterans with a total menu of services at one place and one time, that proverbial one-stop shop, to help them in both the short and the long hauls. Now, this Veterans Stand Down, as it was called, also had the goal of eventually putting itself out of business as more and more veterans embarked on a personal path to a more positive situation. That was the idea. Of course, then came COVID. And this hopeful trend was essentially derailed, or at least put out to pasture for a bit, as the most serious part of the pandemic now seems to be behind us. The need to revive the Veterans Stand Down seems apparent. How better than to talk about it with the folks who are in charge of that revival, to talk about what it entails and how other folks in the community can get involved, because this is a community-wide type of initiative. So we welcome via Zoom to the program Bill Eichhofer, who is Stand Down Coordinator for the 2021 Veterans Stand Down. And Bill, it is good to see your face after too many months.
I agree, and thank you so much for letting us come out on now. It's really, really critical to get the word out, since Stand Down is taking place at a different time of year than what most people are accustomed to. They're used to coming out to the fairgrounds in May, but this year, due to the COVID restrictions and events gathering, we're going to be doing it August 6th through 7th at the Lawson Multipurpose Center on FAMU's campus.
Well, that'll certainly be a cooler venue for this thing, especially in the initial part of August, Bill. So I would venture to say that that may be a good turnout there. It can get a little bit toasty and a bit buggy out there at the fairgrounds in August. So that was a good call to relocate it to the Lawson Center on the FAMU campus.
Yeah, I expect a lot more volunteers this time. Air conditioning, much, much, much better. But we are going to have a full suite of providers there. We're going to have the housing assistance. We're going to have the VA there, chiropractors. We're even going to have a veterinarian there to help with the homeless people's animals. Now, one of the important things is ID for homeless people and getting a driver's license. I was speaking to some people at City Walk yesterday, getting the information out to them, and they have a number of people there who say that prevents them from getting a lot of the benefits that they need. And we have some provisions for helping the veterans who are in that circumstances. If you are needing an ID or a driver's license and you don't have any proof of who you are, go to our website at Tallahassee Veterans Outreach. There's a veterans registration form, but do it and turn it in by July 15th, because we'll help you get birth certificates, DD-214s, etc. And when you come to Stand Down, we have the Flow Mobile that's going to be there from the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, and you'll be able to get a Florida ID or driver's license as the circumstances may dictate. But we're also going to have...
One thing I wanted to throw in here real quick, Bill, and that is for those folks who need to go through this process here, one option might be the resource area of the Leon County Public Library, because there is certainly access to online resources through there if the homeless vets who we're talking to here don't have any other way to go online to obtain that.
Exactly. And you can stop by several of the shelters. Like I said, City Walk, we're going to be getting it out to the Hope community. We're working with the Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and they're going to be bringing materials out to the different camps and other homeless communities to make these materials better or available for you. If you have a serious issue like needing a driver's license or a legal issue, if you can work with the Homeless Coalition or send us an email, like you said, go to the library. My email is on the bottom of the site. It's Eichhofer@gmail. And we'll have somebody get back with you to help you obtain this, because obviously you can't get a birth certificate overnight. And you need that in order to get a driver's license. And then that will help you open the door to getting the other assistance, because you got to prove who you are in order to do these things with the various government programs.
Exactly. And so many of the veterans that we would have in the area might not be Florida born, and you would have to obtain the birth certificate from other state. Bill, before we get into some more stuff, let's bring in the founder, if we could do that, who is Colonel Washington Sanchez. Now, you have seen this guy, if you have not met him in person. You see him on the sides of one of the Star Metro buses here in town. And Washington, it is so good to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. And how have you been in the course of our, should we say, interesting past a year and a half or so?
Well, I've been fine, Tom, and thanks for having us. And I really like to put a shout out for Bill, because Bill was a godsend to us. He's so knowledgeable of the Tallahassee area and the dignitaries and folks like yourself and what have you. You can bring that to the table, and that's what we need is a wide opening for everybody to understand what it is that we're trying to do. So health-wise, I have been excellent. Really, I can't believe at my age. I won't say what it is, but it's up there. But I've been doing things like with the Fitbit stepping. I've not missed a day doing 10,000 steps a day. I like to brag about that, because most people can't do that at a much young age. But to stand down really truly has been a blessing for us all. It's been a blessing for me to be able to give back to our veterans. My ability to do the things I did in the military for 28 years, what have you. And so doing the stand down and having the opportunity to bring it back in being after being away for a year and bring it to my home university, FAMU, it's just an outstanding thing. So we're really looking forward to a real big turnout, because as Bill said, we had a new air-conditioned building, and anything that we have on the outside in tents will be air-conditioned with portable air-conditioned fans and what have you. So we are just excited that we're having this opportunity to do this and do it for all the veterans, mostly at risk, because when I checked a couple of years ago, we had less than 100 veterans that were homeless. And so we then turned to those veterans that are at risk. And I want to tell you, that's the population that need help. That's the population that we're losing through suicide at 20 a day or what have you throughout this nation, and that are needing the help. They are struggling with jobs, and they are struggling to put food on the table. They are struggling with even in housing, apartment, what have you. They are subject to be evicted because they cannot pay their rent because they've been laid off from a job, and just on and on and on. So yes, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and we have seen that resurgence. Bill, you sent me some really, really scary numbers here earlier today that takes a look at the macro. It looks at Florida in general, but you've got a huge number of folks who are homeless. Total homeless population here we're looking at for Florida is just under 27,500. And these are the official stats. There, of course, are an incredible number of people who really don't make any of these radar screens, but are out there nonetheless. And we're seeing that, at least anecdotally here in the Tallahassee and Big Bend area. It's almost impossible to go by any intersection in this town without seeing at least one or possibly more people in that location with the obligatory signs, need help. And it would seem that a significant number of these may very well be former members of the military who need that help out there. So with the Carney Center being shut down for a long period of time during COVID, it is now reopened. The City Walk Center and that attendant controversy, it has really struck that community hard, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. COVID jobs that would normally go to our ALICE population. For those of you who don't know that, it's the asset limited, income constrained, employed. In other words, we're talking about the working poor. In the Big Bend area, since this is the North Florida stand down, we have 53.6% of the population in the Big Bend that are the working poor, people who cannot afford things like childcare, food, transportation. They barely afford a place to live. They're often working multiple jobs. And that doesn't even account for those people who are below the poverty line. If you look at some of the statistics I gave you, I believe it was in Florida, there are 2.6 million Florida households who fit this ALICE population. And then you add another million, they say, that are below the poverty level. And you put that up against 7.8 million people in Florida. We got a tremendous problem in this state. And it extends to the Big Bend with 53% are the working poor. So we need to reach out. If you know somebody, or if you fall into that, once again, stand down is for the at-risk people too. So don't think you have to be living on the street to ask for our help or to register. If you're a veteran, it's available for you. We'll have people there to help you get jobs. We're going to have healthcare, and we got something new for healthcare, as a matter of fact, this year. PanCare from Panama City, they often provide, of course, the medical van and the dental van, but they're bringing their vision van. So if you need if you need glasses, you're going to be able to get glasses, or at least see an eye doctor while you're at stand down. But if you need help, we'll do what we can to do it.
And I might mention yesterday, Vice President of our organization and I met at VA with the eligibility folks, and they are really excited to help us with making sure that any veteran come, whether or not they have a VA card or not, they will be sent through the eligibility, and there's a possibility that they can start getting health care right there that day. They can be given the eligibility to go over to VA on Orange Avenue and start the process of getting care. And that care is starting with a complete physical with a primary care doctor. And then if you have some specific ailment where you need a specialist, the primary care doctor can refer you to not only the VA doctors, but also out with other doctors in the community, because there's something called TRICARE, what have you, that's available to our veterans, but the choice program is also available where they can do civilian doctors and do not have to come into VA to get help and what have you. And I was really surprised how openly they want to be. So they will be at stand down to, in fact, address our veterans right right from that beginning.
Because I think that there's a perception out there, Washington, is there not, that, oh, once you muster out, well, the VA will just take you into its arms and walk you through all of the processes for how you obtain services, like at our big clinic out on Orange Avenue. They'll be in constant contact with you. They'll be looking out for you. That is not necessarily true.
That's a joke. That's a joke. That's why I've said many times, the reason why we continue with Stand Now beyond the homeless population that's gone from around 400 down to less than 100 is that that is not happening. Many people that I meet say, well, hey, I was only in for 2 years and I didn't go and fight anywhere. I stayed in the States, and so I'm not a veteran. That is not so. That is not so. There are various categories of veterans, and so you need to talk to the eligibility folks. They can tell you whether or not you're eligible, not for yourself. And one of the things I learned just recently was that there's an income limit that you have to meet, and so if you are so well off that your income is over, but if you have a disability, you automatically in. And once you're in with a disability, you can get all the services. PAM, as we say, PAM care is bringing over vision, but one of the things that's normal with the VA care is glasses. You get an examination every year, and if you need glasses, you get them every year. So that's a benefit that's available to every veteran. So, and I must say, if you don't want to sign up as a participant, you can sign up as a volunteer. You can sign up as a volunteer participant. We just want you to be aware, because you can learn a lot. That's where I learned a lot, by being involved in this Stand Down. I did not know that there were so many services that were available. When you see our flyer, you see, a total of around 20 different activities that we will have that will be available to our veterans if they come.
And that leads to the next question. With the numbers reflecting an increase here, Bill Eichhofer, how many veterans are you set up to accommodate, given the fact that we probably will have far more response to this year than even 2 years ago out at the fairgrounds, when the numbers were on that downward slide, if you will, after a year and a half of being slammed by COVID and many people falling into more dire circumstances than they had before? Can you guys handle it if we get a real slam turnout for this?
Well, we hope we can. We're not going to turn anybody away. And if we have to be there longer than the scheduled hours, then we will. And I assume our providers, most of them, are of the same opinion. We're there to help the people, and we'll do what we can. And we're not going to walk out on you. But we're expecting around 400 people. That's between the homeless and the at-risk.
That would make a lot of sense. Washington, Sanchez, we touched on this briefly before, but during that first stand down, which, by the way, was not a Tallahassee idea, you kind of appropriated it from another community out west back in the day, didn't you?
As a matter of fact, we were exposed to it by the folks out in San Diego who started the first stand down in 2008. And what they did was very, very unique. They wrote a standard operating procedure, which is an SOP, which military folks are aware of. So we got that, and knowing how to read an SOP from being in the military or what have you, we conducted a 3-day stand down in that vein. And it was so interesting tracking with them, because they were feeding back and forth to us, telling us how to do it. I went out to San Diego on my own dime. I paid my way out and stayed on a Navy base out there. And I was amazed that over 1,000 veterans showed up. I mean, it was an unreal type thing. They took over a school facility, the entire baseball area, football area, and they must have had 60 tents out there. And so I learned from that, and I learned that one of the biggest problems that a lot of veterans have is legal. And it can be legal from the standpoint of losing their license. And once you lose your license, if you have child support issues that go against your license, if you have another speeding ticket that goes against your license, or if you have some other, offense, what have you, all goes against your license, not only in your state, but in any other state that you might be in. And so that was one of the reasons why we had to have court. And we were able to get the Judge Fleury, that started with for us to take on offenses that were in California or in New York or in Illinois or wherever it was, and he could adjudicate those particular offenses right there and report back to the state as to what was done. That was a big deal. I mean, that really cleared a lot of it. So we had veterans that would come without a license or without an ID card, go to court, and leave court with a clear record to a point where they could just go into the Flowmobile and get their license right there. And we then had to follow suit and make them do their community service hours, which was a challenge, but we've overcome that as well.
Well, it was something I thought we could touch upon because of the just nature of the beast, if you will. Bill, that you've got a lot of folks who, if they have spent any time on the street, probably have been hit with all kinds of, in most cases, minor misdemeanor offenses, trespassing after warning, all these kinds of things. And as we know, any kind of an offense today is essentially a life sentence because that record is going to follow you wherever you go. How does that work when you bring people from the Second Judicial Circuit to a veteran stand down and you have folks lining up who have these minor offenses? How does the judge and the other court personnel handle that without caving into what I'm sure some people would say, oh, you're just cutting them an unfair break, or you're making their punishment go away unfairly? How do you deal with that?
Well, Bill, let me address that, because I'm a mentor with the Veteran Treatment Court, which is a program that started, I think, in 2016 or what have you, where there's a judge that's over a set of veterans that might have minor offenses, might have a felony charge, what have you, might have offenses that are drug related, what have you. They go through a 4-phase system, and normally take anywhere from six months to over. And they go to court every other week, depending on what stage they're in. And when they come out, they are drug free because they have to be tested every week, for drugs or for any kind of offense of that nature. And that program is that's a national program, what have you, that help our veterans. But also the what we call the stand down court that's now being held by Judge Richardson, that helped as well, because she can adjudicate minor offenses, what have you, in community service. And we, as an organization, the Tallahassee Veteran Outreach, we can pay for the reinstatement of their license and pay small fees and what have you that allow them to get the license. That's why we bring the Flowmobile out to the stand down, and we'll bring it out this year. Although we don't have court on at the stand down, we will have court immediately after the stand down, based on those veterans that have asked for assistance and need to go to court in order to get their fines and fees or what have you. And a lot of them may be in different states, and so we have to have attorneys reach out to a state to find out what is offensive and get that transferred to Florida and then the Second Circuit, and they can adjudicate that particular offense and turn it into a community service or a small amount of charges that we can assist them in paying. We're hoping to have funds that would allow us to do that as an organization.
But typically you see a lot of these fines and even jail time converted over to community service hours so that the veterans can then discharge their obligation, if you will.
That's
Right.
exactly what happens. And of course, we try to use the buddy system and have mentors that are working with the veteran to guide them and make sure that they are doing what they need to do. And I've been involved with it before they started back in 2016 when I was at the foundation as a chairman. We got involved in that, and it has been a great system. They've graduated many veterans out of that. But we've also been able to help veterans that are not, debilitated with drugs or what have you, get community service through Judge Richardson and come out to have their license and whatever. And there's a program now called expungement that's being worked through the system as well, so you can get your records, get expunged. That means eliminated off your system. So when you go and apply for a job, you really don't have to report something that's already been sealed or locked or gotten away with. And Judge can do that as well with the Veteran Treatment Court. So our veterans are getting a break. I mean, they're getting a tremendous break, and which they deserve. I mean, I don't back up to the table with any benefit I get, and I encourage them not to as well, but seek each and every one that's available.
Bill Eichhofer, there's so many great stories that have come out of previous stand downs and programs ongoing, like Washington just mentioned, to help veterans get back on track. Are there any that stand out to you that you could, without mentioning any names, certainly, just talk about how this coalition of services that we've been able to put together in this area have essentially saved lives?
Well, one thing we do at Stand Down every year is suicide prevention. And I know we've talked about a lot of this in numbers, but you got to realize these aren't just numbers. These are people. These are your cousins, your neighbors, their children, your people in your community. It's not just a number. And a lot of the people, when they come out of the military, it's not just physical disabilities, but they are having PTSD. I can assure you they didn't join the military and plan on coming out and being homeless. I don't think that was their intention. So we need to address, and we were hoping to address here, is to help with suicide prevention. And I know Washington had some information he wanted to share with you on that particular instance.
Yeah, go ahead, Washington.
Yeah, suicide prevention, I've been involved in it quite a bit because, believe it or not, I have post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, as well as traumatic brain injury from my military service. And I did not know about it until almost after I retired for the most part. But we've been involved in this for quite a few years. As a matter of fact, just about 2 days ago, I was talking to a lady from VA that's involved with the White House, because they have a program where they are not only talking about suicide prevention, but they also talking about, getting vaccine for a number of people, especially minorities, who are reluctant about getting a shot because they're familiar with some of the horror stories that's happened in the past, the Tuskegee situation, what have you, which is not even close to being an environment in what we're looking at today. So we in fact, on our website, we have been showing all information from VA, from the county, the testing and what have you. I got my shot from a church, what have you, as opposed to VA, because the church was giving it from a civilian standpoint faster than VA to give it. And as we met yesterday with the VA eligibility people, they say if anyone comes to Stand Down, they don't care whether or not they are a veteran, an escort, or someone who is volunteering to work with our veterans, our vendor, they will give a shot to that particular person, and they'll give, you know, the one-time shot. And PAM Care, who is coming to do medical stuff, they are bringing the capability of doing shots. You may know that FAMU have been doing testing for months, and I tell you, their testing is quite away. I mean, you know, I took a test about 3 or 4 months ago, and before I got home, they had the results to me. So I want to tell you that's a good thing. And at the Lawson Center today, you know, they are in fact giving the vaccine. So we're going to the heart of where things are happening. We're taking the stand down to a place where it should have been for years ago. We shouldn't, you know, and there's no reason why we're not indifferent to the fairground, but when you can get into the heart of a university and have university students exposed to the critical situations of helping veterans. And I attended that university, went through our ROTC program. We'll get the ROTC folks involved and what have you. So all of that is very important to come into an end game that says that we are taking care of veterans and we're helping to prevent suicide. That is a priority for not only VA, but for the White House as well.
And to leverage a worldwide pandemic on top of this situation, winding down though it may be, it further complicates things immeasurably beyond what we have seen in previous stand downs.
Right. Well, you know, when you look at our flyer, and I'm looking at one right now, I'm just amazed with the stuff we have on it. We haven't even mentioned voter registration. We're doing free haircuts, free food, free distribution of packaged food from Second Harvest and from Food Source and what have you. So we I think Bill mentioned the veterinary service that we'll have out there. We will have the ability for a veteran to come in, identify himself, not knowing whether he's qualified for service from VA, but find out that he is, and if he has some illness, he can go to a veteran service officer right there, and he can apply for a disability that will go anywhere from 10% up to 100%. And we're talking about real funds that are tax deductible. 100% disability gets you $3,000 or $36,000 a year that you don't have to pay taxes on. Mm-hmm. And it's protected in a lot of cases from anybody gouging. Even in a divorce case, they can't touch your disability funds.
Oh, Tom, back to your question. An example of some people that were affected that I met through Stand Down, a number of them were homeowners. And I would work with them to help get them as many or as much of a tax savings as I can. And a lot of them were seniors. And often what I could help them and show them how to save money on taxes would pay for their drugs. There are some tax exemptions for combat disabled veterans, which give you a direct reduction in your taxes. Let's say if you're 70% disabled, due to combat and you're age 65, your taxes are knocked down by that amount. And that helps our seniors because they are on limited incomes. So things along those lines, helping people stay in their housing, helping them free up money so they can pay for their drugs or make their mortgage payment. So there are circumstances that, yes, and those are some of the life-changing ones that I've worked on. But Washington and the suicide prevention and providing food and helping people get off the street are really some of the more important ones.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. And it seems that we can't go through a legislative session without the lawmakers coming up with a new homestead exemption, many of which, as you said, are totally tied to prior military service. So that's something that a lot of folks, from your day job back then didn't really take into account when they're trying to figure out what their tax burden is going to be on their homesteaded property. So good point.
Yeah, I was involved in that. The constitutional amendment that just passed for combat injured veterans that extended the exemption to their surviving spouse. I lobbied for that. I worked with the Florida Department of Veterans to help make that a reality, along with so many of the commanders here locally. And think of how that affects people. When your spouse dies, what happens? Besides the grief, your bills and your bills don't change. You probably got more because you got to pay for funerals, et cetera, but your income drops. And having to face losing your home, being able to put food on the table, this exemption may not take care of all of it, but it does make a difference. And it is now law in Florida to help these people that served and stood in our place and fought for us. So we could have this conversation, a free radio station.
There we go, Bill.
I might add to that. There's something called dependent indemnity compensation, which a spouse is may be eligible for, but they have to have had their veteran participate with VA and VA card and have a disability. And one of the key things to being eligible for that is to have, not that if everybody's going to die, we know that you're going to expire at some point in time, but if you die of a disability that's put on your death certificate, that's an end to be eligible for DIC. And we have a national cemetery here, so that's something that will be available to veterans as well. They can pre-register for a interment at the National Cemetery. They can do that at the stand now because we'll have someone from the cemetery there. And so we're trying to cover all bases. Anything that can be made available to a veteran, we will try to have a piece of it at the stand now. And in fact, we don't stop after the 6th and 7th of August. We will continue to service veterans, and we're doing that right now. As they sign up, we send their information to a particular activity that can start taking care of that particular problem that they have. I'm dealing with 2 people right now that need services, and so I'm telling them what to do, where to go. And matter of fact, yesterday I took a veteran with me as I went to the eligibility people, and I said, okay, now that we finished the general stuff, let's talk specifically about this veteran. One of the things we learned that he was over income, but if his disability come through with hearing, then he's in and he'll get the same service as anybody else, regardless of income. And that a lot of people don't know. They say, well, I make too much money. Well, you do. You might, nobody makes too much money, but that's what you want to say. But you can still get VA services, which will be a really life-saving type thing for your family members if you, in fact, pursue that.
But just having all of that information and those resources available at that one place and time is invaluable, as you pointed out, Washington. So many of the service access problems are really not knowing who to talk to or what the rules of the road are when it comes to what am I eligible for? What can I get? And that is almost impenetrable, even if you go on, and I know that they have the best intentions at heart, but you go on to the VA's website or some of these other online resources that are available, and you try to pick apart, well, gosh, does this apply to me? Could my family get this? It is difficult to tell unless you've got someone who really has a lot of savvy and experience in this, and that having it at stand down is going to be really important for folks.
And we will have that. We'll have, for an example, we'll have the County Veteran Service Officer will be there, Ben Bradwell, with the county, what have you. And a lot of times the first thing that's asked for is a DD Form 214. And they have no idea what it is or where it is and what have you. And so in this case, you can turn to Ben, because Ben get a copy of the DD Form 214 as a veteran who's identified come into the county. They get it at the state level, Department of Veteran Affairs get it, and they share it with the veteran service officers at the county level. So, and I've had instances of that where a widow came to me shortly after their husband died, and they asked, "Can you help?" And I said, "Have you found his DD Form 214? That's the first thing you got to do before you can go to the funeral home, and they can do anything for you." And then I said, if you can't find it, then hey, we'll send you to Ben Bradwell at the county, and he can look it up. In most cases, he might have it. If not, he knows how to get it through VA.
Let me encourage everyone to tell your veterans, even if they can't pre-register, still come. We know that a lot of you don't have access to computers, et cetera. Still come to the event. We'll get you into the system and do everything we can help. Now, those who can, the forms for veterans are online. If you want to be a provider, they are online. We need volunteers. On approximately July 7th, you're going to be able to go on to the Tallahassee Veterans Outreach.org site and sign up to be a volunteer. Also, these events, they're not free. I would like to encourage you to support Stand Down. This interview wouldn't be complete, I don't think, without bringing up something. Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy of the Tuskegee Airmen is so concerned about the veterans up in the Panhandle. He is going to be coming in September to help raise money for Stand Down and the Florida veterans. And how he's going to do that is through a show called Wings and Wheels. It's going to be an airplane show. We've got the Commemorative Air Force flying in a number of their planes, and we've got a number of other military planes are going to be there. We expect about 30 planes. We have a car show. We're going to have World War II vehicles, command cars, troop carriers. It'll be a nice day out for the family. But Lieutenant Colonel of the George Hardy of the Tuskegee Airmen is going to come to Tallahassee to help the veterans in this area and to help see that we can continue to do Stand Down.
So that's going to be taking place in the fall. And will that be, since there are aircraft involved, will that be out at the airport then, Bill, or what?
Yes, it is. Flight Line is going to be actually at the old airport. Flight Line in conjunction with the airport. If you've got a plane, you want to fly it in and show it. We've got the fees waived. The car show and the motorcycles will be in Flight Line. We have security and everything. So it'll be a nice, safe place for you to bring your family and have a good time and help out with the veterans.
I recall one of the Tuskegee guys brought in one of those red-tailed Mustangs, P-51s, a couple years ago out to the Flight Line area. And that was just inspiring to see that and to think of what that particular aircraft meant in the course of World War II. That was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, keep us in mind for future talking about those kinds of things too, Bill, because that'll be exciting.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that. Because we got to, Stand Down. We're going to have this one. We'll get through this one, and it's got to continue on. And we got to look for next year, and that event will actually go for paying for next year's Stand Down. But the bigger success, the more people we can help and reach. Don't forget that Habitat for Humanity is generally present at Stand Down. Those of you who are veterans and have an income, you can apply for housing. You're looking at a 3 or 4 bedroom house you can get from Habitat from Humanity for about a $430 a month mortgage payment. Now, of course, you have to go through their process of working on other homes and they'll look at your credit, but it's not strict like if you were going from a commercial lender, because they carry their own paper. And the city and the county have donated 7 lots for veterans, but Habitat isn't getting a lot of veterans to apply. So if you're out there and you need affordable housing, $450 for a brand new house compared to $900, I think, is the average rent in Tallahassee.
It's a no-brainer.
It's like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, Bill and I have been working to try to get house bill. I think we've got one bill within the program, veteran bill.
Yes.
Since, and we're looking to get another one bill as soon as possible. We can't say exactly when, but we have to raise a certain amount of funds in order to start a particular property itself. A lot is available, and Bill and I have dedicated our efforts toward raising funds necessary to get that going.
But even if you don't show up to stand down, you can go online and make sure you go to Big Bend Habitat for Humanity. If you just and donate there or apply there, if you go to Habitat for Humanity, the national organization gets it. You want your money to stay local, go to Big Bend Habitat for Humanity.
What is the status of the development out on Lake Bradford Road that was set aside for veterans, those properties along there? Are there any availabilities still out there, or are they all booked up right now?
That I actually do not know, Tom. I'm not sure. Do you know, Washington?
We will find an answer of that, because that's something that we should know. But Bill and I, we will get you an answer to that, and you can maybe augment the presentation with it.
Thank you. That would be
Tom, you know more than we do.
And I know that, as you mentioned, Bill, the city and county have been cognizant of the fact that this is a need that has to be met at an increasing rate than perhaps we have had. There's even talk of, once the construction of the new Tallahassee police station at the old Northwood Center is done and they demo the current station, that property could conceivably be turned into some kind of affordable housing availability. That is not cast in concrete or even plywood at this point, but that's something that has been discussed. And that certainly would be worthwhile to make sure that the area's veterans who are in need would have access to that and any other affordable housing initiatives that come up in the area.
Well, I know some things we've been talking about with Habitat was changing the way you look at it, because there are a lot of single people. They don't need a 3-bedroom house, and they haven't done this yet, but it's possible to build duplexes or quadruplexes. Think about how that would help our seniors who, you know, I remember in the old days talking about a lot of them eating cat food and dog food, which is really sad, and I hope that's still not true. But imagine if they built a duplex and you could get, if you're a senior and you were paying $300 even a month for that. That's a lot better than a Section 8 apartment. You'd own it. You'd create a legacy. We're not putting you in the projects or anything like that. We're putting you out in the neighborhoods so that you can be part of the community.
And Washington, Sanchez, as you have said so many times before, the greatest remedy for homelessness is simply a home, and that's what we're talking about here.
Yes, I mean, that's the goal. You know, rent is one thing, and it's not temporarily, but owning your own home for less than $400 a month is just unbelievable. But many citizens, and we are citizens as well as veterans, are taking advantage of that. They build a number of homes a year, and we need to get on that train to make sure it happens. But veterans are very modest. They don't think they deserve this and that and what have you. And I keep saying, you deserve everything that we can provide to you. You have served your country. Now it's time to serve you, and I really believe in that. That's why Stand Down is so important. And we've had as many as 300 volunteers, along with 360 veterans to show up at the 2019 Stand Down. So we do have the participation, and I might say, although we may not have that many people sign up, generally only about a third of the folks that come to Stand Down actually pre-register to us, but we don't care. As long as we can accommodate them. We have a lady, Samuel Washington, who works closely with the center out there at the fairground. She get things done, and so in this case, we say come and let us figure out how we can take care of you, and we will surely try to do that. We won't leave you out in the cold. We'll make sure that we do something for you. We got, Farm Share and Second Harvest giving food like they give around the place. We have it strictly for veterans, and we'll have a backpack full of stuff. It will be a carnival type thing, really, but it'll be some serious stuff happening there, such as healthcare, such as free needs for burial, such as dental help that veterans don't get unless they're 100%. So there is a reason to participate, and we ask you to come and help us do what we can do for our most deserving citizens.
Washington Sanchez, you mentioned not leaving anyone out in the cold. Since this is August 6th and 7th, we don't want to leave people out in the heat either. And the Lawson Center is air conditioned, as you mentioned.
Very good. Tom, you know how to count things. Really, we're very proud of the fact that we'll be inside, and you can stay inside the whole time you're there and get the services out. And the only service you cannot get inside would be the veterinarian. If you have a pet and something like you have to go out, and we'll have an air-conditioned tent for you to sit in and wait, and we'll have the service available to you. So we're covering all bases. And if someone want to bring another service that's needed, we will welcome them. We say we're not selling anything. If you come in to sell or make money off of veterans or anybody else, you're coming to the wrong place, because we will not allow you to do that. But if you come in to give a service to a veteran, we welcome your service, and we'll find a place for you if it's appropriate. And
we thank you for your service, Colonel Washington Sanchez, the founder of the Veteran Stand Down here in Tallahassee and Leon County. Bill Eichhofer, thank you so much for your participation and your great conversation today. It's always good to hear from you, and we will see you guys at Stand Down at the Lawson Center on the FAMU Campus, August 6th and 7th. Thanks for coming on, guys. We welcome you, Tom.
Thank you.
Perspectives is produced by WFSU Public Media in Tallahassee. Thanks to Taylor Cox, Paul Dam, Amy Diaz de Villegas, Devin Bittner, Brandon Brown, Tricia Moynihan, and Lydell Rawls. Our Director of Content, Kim Kelling, is Executive Producer, and I'm Tom Flanagan. We're still in the process of finalizing next week's program, but it'll be fun, and you're invited to be part of it right here on Perspectives from WFSU Public Media. Take care.